Our agenda is going to be pretty fluid, with Jake, Naga, and I presenting a little bit of each. We'll start off talking about our retail personas, dive into exploring the funnel across all of our retail marketing, dive into some of the content that we've created and some of the plans that we have for the rest of the year, and then finish off for what we've learned over the past 3 months from marketing and also running some really cool surveys across both our degen audiences as well as our traditional retail audiences. Quick intro, I joined Reserve a few months ago, right when we launched DTFs as the head of marketing. Jake has been here for, I believe, a little over a year. He's the brand and content lead, and Naga is our MarOps lead. MarOps is marketing operations for those who are not familiar. So one of the big things that we've been exploring is the two types of retail users that we have. Something that we've kind of split them into is crypto native people who already hold tokens. They are trading on DEXs. They are totally familiar using a wallet. They probably have multiple wallets and their pain points. For DTFs, most of their pain points fall into token and trading fatigue. People have too many tokens. There's thousands of tokens launched every day. How do you possibly keep up? Being married to their bags and having minimal exposure. Maybe they're a member of a cult meme coin, or perhaps they just don't have access to all the coins that are pumping at that time. And then the fear of missing out. Narratives are constantly switching in crypto, and if you are trading on a DEX or you're swapping within your wallet, odds are you're missing those narratives and they're moving way too fast. On the curious retail investor side, you have the very stereotypical, I have a Coinbase account and I probably own some Bitcoin, a little bit of ETH, but I haven't really traveled into alts. The pain points there are they're scared to be rug pulled, which is very valid. They're scared of altcoins as a whole, which ones will go to zero, which ones will pump, which ones are legitimate projects, which ones are not. And they're just skeptical of anything that's not a major. On top of that, they're not really educated and they have nowhere to start outside of having some sort of Coinbase account, or perhaps they're buying through Robinhood or some other centralized entity. The difference in the primary channels there, of course, are centralized exchanges versus decentralized exchanges and wallets, and as well that we've learned that Twitter, Telegram, and crypto publications are where our audiences primarily are, where on the curious retail investor side, it is much more on the more mainstream side of social, Instagram, TikTok, and non-crypto publications such as The Economist, The New York Times, things that have a lot of trust value and people are really looking for crypto to get in there before they make a decision. The way that we look at the funnel is bringing people on both sides from awareness to advocacy. Users from either side of the funnel could enter at any point. For example, if you were to read a blog and then immediately go and try to connect your wallet, you're starting at the consideration point and then going right to conversion. And if you're someone who maybe watched one of our videos or watched Nevin speak, you're going from awareness and then reading a blog and you're going from awareness to consideration. The whole goal is to slowly push people down the funnel so they're getting informed, educated, converted, and then they're becoming advocates and staying loyal to our brand and our products. At the very top of the funnel, the goal is not to actually bring people to our app. It is to strictly inform them and educate them. And the way we do that is by reaching them and engaging with them where they are. So you might see a lot of the content that we've put out that is very commercial-esque. Right now we're running retail ads on YouTube and Hulu and some big publications where you could simply watch through something, learn what a DTF is, and now you're aware. They're very high intent if someone is to, for example, pull out their phone and scan it on a QR code and go right to our website, or maybe they just Google Reserve right after. We've seen a huge increase in our search numbers, for example, because of these types of ads. It's super important to kind of know that any of these types of ads could be retargeted later in the funnel, and they're things where we are capturing that user and learning, hey, this is what they're doing when they get to our site, whether that be viewing 10 pages, viewing 2 pages, or getting to the page and saying, I don't like this, I need to learn more. A little bit further down the funnel, and you'll notice we kind of skipped over the middle of the funnel, and that's because the middle of the funnel is very not cut and dry. It could be anything from a click, a long-term video view. For example, if you view a 30-minute speech, you have higher consideration than someone that watched a 15-second TikTok. At the conversion stage of the funnel, what we're really looking to do is make people connect their wallets or if one of our DTFs is on a centralized exchange, to purchase, and if we're partnering with the wallet, for example, to be able to swap there. Channels for that would be exchange listing, wallet partners, and conversion ads, where we're sending people directly to landing pages that are catered to whatever that persona is. We've built out individual pages that have retail language for I know nothing about crypto, and degen language for I trade all the time, and now I'm looking to get into a narrative and learn a lot more about what other DTFs Reserve has to offer. A lot of those tactics are very, very specific to the user. A lot of the messaging that Jake will go into in a minute is for the individual, and it's based on the content that they actually looked at before they got to that ad. So odds are someone has already seen 2 of our videos, read a blog, and now they're getting to the point where they're going to connect their wallet and they're going to actually make a purchase or mint something. The interesting part about that is once they do that, we then could retarget them based on their wallet. And that's super important because we could do that based off of the DTF they might have already purchased, whether that be a narrative DTF, something in AI, and we want to push memes, and we kind of want to show them what the rest of the world is offering in the DTF just ecosphere, I'll call it. And that's where retargeting comes in. So anyone that has touched a piece of content with Reserve are getting bucketed currently. So Naga does a great job with our analytics, and something that we're doing is we're taking all of the users that come in and figuring out what they're doing, what they like, and what they want to learn more of. A big thing is education and information in crypto, and currently our industry kind of lacks that on the marketing side. You see a lot of tokens that you get a little bit of information, you get a white paper, but you're not really getting educated on the long-term plan, how it works, or the functionality, and what it's doing for you, its true value. Most of our content is built around that, and almost all of our retargeting content is pushed to doing that. The advantage there is once someone is a DTF owner and they have it in their wallet and they've viewed enough content, we can now start introducing them to the rest of the Reserve ecosystem, whether that be vote locking, sharing and referral programs, and kind of everything in between. The way that we capture all of this is truly, I would say, the secret sauce, because if we're not able to retarget these people based off of that individual content, then we're kind of just throwing things into the ether. Something that's super important too is that we're able to see who has RSR, who has which individual DTFs, and I just want to, like, the content funnel that we're currently building out is gigantic, and it involves everything from video content to social content to extremely long-form blog posts that are showing what goes into rebalancing a DTF and everything in between. So the goal is to continuously educate people, not just for, hey, now I know about this and I own it, but have them constantly getting a new understanding of DTFs as a whole.
How's it going? My name's Jake. I just thought of this analogy right now, so it could be super terrible. But you know when you're like driving down the road and you drive past a car wash and you see like either the guy that's going like this, the inflatable guy, or you see the guy who has the sign that's like spinning the sign and it says like free car wash, right? That's the top of the funnel. That's getting your attention. And then you have the free car wash, you get in there, and then there's the actual car wash, and then they get you a subscription and you get farther down in the funnel. Like that's the whole mechanism that we're setting up. And the thing that I like to think about the most, or the thing I guess I spend the most time thinking about, is this guy and what's on the sign and the actual words that are on the sign and what are the most effective things that, you know, what are the best colors for the sign and what are the words that, you know, get these particular people in this particular suburb to turn into this particular car wash the most, if that makes sense. So we've got, like Dan was saying, we've got these 2 particular personas that we target. I've got my notes on my phone here. I'm not texting my girlfriend. We've got these 2 audiences, and so we've spent a lot of time having conversation and thinking about how we talk to these different audiences differently, down to the words that we use, down to the vibe that we put out into the world, the type of content, all that different type of stuff, right? So crypto curious, these are people who, you know, they've heard about crypto, they know that maybe there's some like, there's an opportunity there. So index investing meet crypto, right? This is the person who's like, oh, I know what indexes are and I know what ETFs are, and I would like some exposure to crypto, so maybe that's the thing for me. That same advertising campaign that we did in the Denver airport, there was I think another one that said, like, tired of missing out on crypto trends. Like, we're just trying to capture these people who are aware of crypto as a thing. Same thing for this really stupid and hilariously well-performing ad that we did called Legs in a Basket, which is just introducing people to the idea of DTFs as an index, as a way to have exposure to multiple things. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? This is the type of thing that we're putting out into the world in targeted ads on social media, on streaming services, et cetera, to A, get some brand awareness, get Reserve's name out there, B, let people know that Reserve is an index platform, a portfolio platform, and to present ourselves as honestly a serious player in the space who makes serious commercials in the same way that, say, State Farm makes serious commercials that are funny, right? You know that they're a serious business, even though their commercials are funny. Go back. So for crypto native, we use technical, precise, and insider language, right? So if you go to, if you click one of these ads that's targeted specifically to this persona, the first thing you see is stop chasing rugs, diversify and chill, right? We're assuming you know what a rug is, We're assuming, not rug pull, but a rug, and we're assuming that you know what diversify and chill means, right? There's some assumptions there. The message for this persona is stop chasing tokens, buy the narrative. This whole don't search for the needle, buy the haystack situation, right? And the focus here for us is a halo effect for on-chain projects. So we were just talking to the Clanker guy, and we were saying that it's good for us. It's good for us on our homepage to have Clanker featured there because it gives us legitimacy in crypto Twitter, right? Reserve to have a Clanker index, to have active development from the Clanker people, gives Reserve some sort of there's a legitimate halo effect there. So we have that focus. For the crypto curious folks, which for the record is much harder and a much more expensive nut to crack marketing-wise, we use analogies. They're like ETFs, but in crypto. Index investing, meet crypto. Crypto you can finally introduce your parents to. This type of thing that's sort of like gently introducing people to this idea that is sort of scary generally, like there's a much bigger chasm to cross. And the message here is that DTFs are the best, easiest way to get broad or targeted exposure to crypto. And the halo effect here is the institutions. This is when we're like, hey, guess who's on our platform? Bloomberg Galaxy Crypto Index, Market Vector. This is when we lean into that halo effect for these folks who know those names, and they're like, Clanker? Who is Clanker? You know what I'm saying? But they know Bloomberg. So those two things, they play into these two different audiences. I'm going to skip over this, blah, blah, blah. Oh, this chart here, that was cool. This chart here kind of does both things, right? This comparison between mutual funds, ETFs, and DTFs. These blue horizontal lines are kind of like a way to talk to crypto curious folks, like, oh, there's investability, accessibility, and flexibility. And then you can really get into the weeds with crypto native stuff. We had some fun designing some crypto tarot cards that we gave out at ETH Denver. So there was one of them was like Lambo. We had all these insidery degen names. At one point, we ended up getting a DM from Snoop Dogg. If you know who his secret identity is online, that was fun. The thing on the top right with Dan with the Pepe, the frog on his shoulder, is just another way to show that we're flexible enough and fluent enough in crypto language, and that we're able to put together content that is like immediately crypto native and that we know will speak to a certain segment of the audience, right? Okay, so next slide. Which persona do you think is which? This is the same actor in a shoot we did in Mexico. One of these videos is directed toward the crypto curious person, and one of these is directed toward the crypto native person. Can you tell immediately which is which? You can, right? So my job in some ways is to think about literally what we say. as ABC Labs, the team behind Reserve. The words, right? Diversify and chill. The visuals. What does a degen DTF holder look like, feel like, right? The shades. What does like a diversified Bloomberg Galaxy Crypto Index holder look like? They look freaking classy in a linen suit, right? And they're talking to those same people, right? These are the people that we're targeting. We're trying to sort of like create the identity, talk to the identity, figure out what language they're using, invent a language. There's all of this sort of like thinking and wordplay and world building that's happening in order to sort of communicate what we're doing, which I really love. And all of this is optimizing for this top of funnel, right? We're optimizing for this getting cars to pull into the car wash, right? What we're not optimizing for at the top of the funnel is anything to do with a ton of other stuff in the Reserve ecosystem, which has to do with like RSR or like the technical aspects of the protocol, or like honestly, like at this point, governance. Like nobody's gonna pull into the car wash to talk about governance. Stuff like that. But like we're specifically optimizing for certain things. I mean, maybe there's like 3 people, but like we're specifically optimizing for certain things here in order to get people into this funnel. And there are people who will come in, to the funnel from these conversations that do want to have that governance conversation, but we're certainly not going to target those people. Next one. So another area that we've been leaning into a lot lately is events. I've been having a lot of fun with events. In Denver, we had a booth where half of our booth was a regular booth, and the other half had a fortune teller. Her name was Diana, the Oracle Queen, and she would literally tell your fortune using this custom crypto tarot deck that we made. Nevin has been tweeting out those tarot cards. The reason that I put this picture on here is because the woman who's taking a photo in the picture is a reporter from the Washington Post who was there to do a story on ETH Denver and ended up scrapping the story to do a story about Reserve's presence there. Had a conversation with Thomas, our CEO, and now they're like besties. Thomas has been in conversation and been in articles in the Washington Post. And this idea of creating worlds, of creating delight, of doing things that are creating experiences and elevating Reserve's brand presence in the world is something that we're really, really focused on. Also, this in the top right, this woman who's from CoinPost in Japan, she's looking at one of our Reserve rubber duckies and just like loving it so much because there's custom little sunglasses and gold chains that you can put on the rubber duckies, and she just got a huge kick out of that. So we're trying to create this whole world for Reserve. We have this campaign right now called Diversify and Chill, which we're running this summer, which you can see in the previous slide, the guy with the pit vipers. He's kind of the spokesperson in the videos for this campaign, Diversify and Chill with DTFs built on Reserve. This is kind of our vibe for the summer. Experience crypto index bliss. It's got kind of a 90s feel, right? This is clearly targeted toward crypto people, not necessarily crypto curious people, although, it feels, to me anyway, because I was born in the 80s, it feels like familiar and comfortable to me. All the content that we're generating, we're putting out on crypto Twitter. We've got a bunch of media that we're putting out, Bankless, The Street. On Farcaster, we're doing a bunch of fun little experiments because Farcaster is just like super duper crypto in the weeds people, and it's really, honestly, right now, inexpensive, low effort, and like high win rate to do things there. So we did a QR auction there, and then we did a trivia sponsorship. We've got some sex sponsorships in the works. You can see Crypto Curious channels. And then we've got a ton of targeted landing pages, which I love. Educational DTF content, which Naga King is crushing. A single serving site for DTFs where someone's like, what's a DTF? We're like, go to reserve.org/DTF, and it lays out this whole thing beautifully with all these value propositions. And then these videos, these commercials and stuff too. Okay. So what's next? Let's see here. So we've got, did Denver, we had Consensus in Toronto. We're gonna have a presence at Token 2049 in Singapore in October. We're gonna be, I think, in a different place in December. I don't know if I can spoil where that is. We're gonna be in Yukon for a new user onboarding campaign at a Yukon game. That's gonna be super fun with like college students. In college, I got a credit card to get a free Cubs hat, and then quickly maxed it out and screwed myself over for years. We're gonna do that, but for DTFs. We did a layer 3 campaign, and then what's next? Well, we're gonna learn from what we've done, and we're gonna lean in, right? We're gonna analyze all the data coming out of the car wash. We're gonna see what tactics work. We're gonna see which signs work the best. We're gonna see which color of the floppy guy worked best. And we're gonna analyze and lean into what worked, right? We've got a bunch of new content in the works that I'm really excited about. We've got a whole educational series videos coming. We've got new commercials in the pipeline. But yeah, I could talk about this forever, but this is what we've got. This is what we got going on.
Okay, so I'm going to go through kind of what we've learned so far, and I'll kind of explain the way that we track data and try to optimize our campaigns. So we expect that there's should be a lot of demand for DTFs based off of just the previous success of ETFs and mutual funds. In some ways, like this diversification is like the thing that unlocked retail investing over the last, I guess almost 50 years now. And so today, index funds, including both ETFs and mutual funds, it's about like 15 trillion or $20 trillion market. But in cryptocurrency, basically no one uses indexes. So you can see that in stocks, you have like 15-20% of stocks are all held in index funds. Bonds, you have 5%. Crypto, less than 0.03%. And basically, that suggests to us that there's a lot of room for growth, but we got to figure out like just how to tell people about this, how to let them know that, okay, the same way that you can have this kind of simplifying force that you can have through passive index investing, you can also have that in crypto. So we initially, when we first started out on doing some of these campaigns, we did some basically surveys. We were just trying to get like into people's heads, understand what they want, what crypto investors or people who might become crypto investors are interested in. And so we asked them a lot of questions, but this was a kind of a key question that we buried in there. And we asked, okay, if there were diversified index funds on, for example, Robinhood or whatever investing or in any kind of monetary app that you use, if diversified funds were available on there, would you be interested in investing in these? 77% of users said they'd be interested in a diversified crypto product. And so, like I said, what we're trying to fill this gap. It's like people say they're interested in this, but it's like not that many people have done it yet. So we need to like tell them how to do it essentially. We think the reason why this has become an interesting thing now is because there are so many cryptocurrencies and just so much information out there. So this is a graph of just the number of tokens that exist, or these are the ones that are tracked by CoinGecko on Gecko Terminal. So if you look in 2021, so not even that long ago, there's less than 1 million tokens. Today, that 2025 bar is, I just checked yesterday, we have over 8 million tokens. And so people need some kind of filtration mechanism in order to kind of like target, or maybe there's some kind of curation element there. They say, okay, I'm interested in crypto, I can buy a broad market index, or I can target some particular narrative, et cetera. And this is actually a development in the crypto market. So previously, like even in the last few years, basically everything was correlated with Bitcoin. There's no real reason to diversify because everything was just a Bitcoin proxy, essentially. But we did this breakdown of, we looked at the correlations of the returns across different assets, and we found that there's now growing these clusters within within crypto. And so these are almost like different sectors. So you have things like, okay, there's Bitcoin ecosystem, which is kind of like Bitcoin, or you can have, there's like Doge is in there. But then like adjacent to that, these things are kind of correlated, but they've broken out a little bit, is these memes. So you have like Pepe, dog with hat, whatever, those kind of things. And there's even if you look at the bottom, like completely different separate cluster for just dog memes. So like the dog meme coins are correlated. If it's a dog meme, it's more correlated than to some other type of meme. And there's computing platforms, GameFi, AI, there's ecosystems like Solana, Avalanche, things like that. So we think, or we're kind of theorizing that this is kind of driving, or this may drive people to be interested in like more diversified investing in crypto. Okay, go ahead. So we're trying to figure out how to bridge this gap, basically. And so what we do is we use a data-driven approach. So we have many different channels which we try out. So like both Jake and Dan mentioned, we have, on the one hand, one factor is like we have different types of investors, right? So we try and target those different types of investors. And then we have different channels. So social media, TV, whatever. We try everything and just see what's working and just continually refine. So we usually use these kind of, we have many metrics that we track, but kind of the big ones that we really care about is like we want more people connecting their wallets, and we just want more people minting DTFs. And so since the launch of index DTFs, we basically have had pretty consistent exponential growth on both of these, but we're just trying to like just supercharge that, keep that going even more. Go ahead. So one thing I've just started working with is this, it's called marketing mix modeling. It is, I don't know why it's called marketing mix modeling, it's just mix modeling. It's a statistical approach for like basically trying to track like what is working, what is the most cost effective type of thing. And we can break down everything we do into different factors. So we actually record data on every single thing we do, and we're starting to put this into these models. And so you can decompose these different factors, including not just like the things that you've recorded, but you can infer latent factors. So one reason that's important, so think about like we're doing TV ads, or we're doing like, or we have an event, like a booth or whatever. We can't directly, in most cases, record like, okay, did the booth cause someone to log in to reserve.org? But we can infer these things using these modeling approaches. And these kind of models are really nice because they're extremely flexible. So you can include like the stuff that you have high resolution data on, with like, for example, time series data on like who is, how many people came to the website that day or whatever. But you can also include like event-based things. Like it'll be like, oh, some famous person mentioned reserve on TV today, and you can throw that in there. You can covary out these like market effects. So for example, we can say, okay, one thing that is influencing more people minting DTFs is like, oh, just say like the market is like going through the roof, like, oh, Bitcoin just crossed 100,000 or whatever. You can include that as a covariate, and then so we can include like these kind of background type effects, and so we can infer that if those things are driving it, not our direct own things that we're doing. And finally, the nice thing about this is privacy respecting. So in general, this is good, but also in crypto, people really care about this. So it's all happening at the bulk level of statistical analysis. There is no cookies or tracking or anything like that. This is just stats modeling, looking at numbers. We don't know your name, face, address, anything like that.
Want to kind of open it up for questions. I put a few on here, but
yeah, so I feel a little bit left out because I'm not in your age brackets. I'm way outside. But what I wanted to ask you is this. So the reason index investing is so powerful is because it's not because it's easier or anything else. It's because people who invest in indices, they typically do it like it's a drip investing. As long as you have your job, you just it drips, doesn't matter valuations, nothing, right? It's just a fixed amount a month. So normally the people who do that, they are either at the upper end of your range or outside of your range. So there's been a campaign a couple of years ago, Get Off Zero. I don't know, I think it was Pamplana who popularized it. From what I heard, it was pretty successful. What do you think of targeting, financial advisors, for example, because for them that
What was that campaign?
Get off zero.
Can you describe it? I don't.
Well, the pitch was that you don't have to believe in Bitcoin, you don't have to risk too much, you just have to get off your zero allocation. So everyone had zero, and still, most of the people have zero allocation to Bitcoin, right? But it was so just put 1% of your portfolio or some small amount, and that worked in a spectacular fashion. I think he sold his fund for like some gazillion dollars to another fund. Anyhow, but the question is like, what do you think of targeting not necessarily crypto native and crypto curious, but rather people, normies, so to speak?
I think the retail side of that, normies kind of fall into that bracket. Keep in mind that the ages that were on there are strictly based off of like the survey data that we ran. Realistically, we go all the way up to like 100 when it comes to who we're actually targeting within the platform, and we kind of break those out individually. I also think from the investor institutional side is a completely different strategy that involves like BD and kind of doing a lot more individual outreach, a lot more publication type stuff. So that's something that's happening, but we kind of consider it a little bit more of like the B2B side of things versus the strictly just retail. And then within that kind of the two personas we have, the total normie falls into that crypto curious person. I think Coinbase is like a great example. It's like 100 million plus people that have a Coinbase account and have money in it. Those people are considered normies, and I think that with all of the exposure through distribution through platforms like Webull and Robinhood, those people that are just trading traditional indexes like you mentioned, they also now could access crypto. So distribution is something I know that it's a high priority and on our mind, but I think it kind of falls into that B2B institutional side of things.
Yeah, in terms of like marketing materials, a lot of our weight is behind these two personas, but what you're talking about, we have a lot of our energy from our BD team is directed in this very area, right? And when we're at events specifically, the marketing materials that we have, we've got these really nice, classy booklets that we have, right? And the conversations that we have with these institutions and these hedge funds are very much what you're talking about, right? It's a completely different audience of people who are at these things. And so we're able to be nimble and adapt to these different types of audiences. It's just a matter of meeting people where they're at, right? It's typically not those type of people who are on crypto Twitter or who are, we're trying to kind of meet them where they are.
We've gotten
BD team
some.
is stacked.
Yeah, I was going to say we've gotten some interest from NRA that wants to offer this to their customers. They're like a very, very forward-thinking RA. Initial signs, as far as I can tell, on the family office side is like not a whole lot of interest, but the team is having a bunch of exploratory conversations. And so it's kind of like, it's this thing where like, it sort of seems like there's so many out there. There must be some that want crypto, that want, the 1% or 5% in crypto. But so far in our early explorations, I think we've found less interest than we had expected.
But to your point of meeting people where they are, they don't go to, ETH Denver. They go to like Florida Money Show.
Totally. Yeah.
Right. So I think that's the place to target those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like a more of a BD play, right? And that's kind of their sweet spot. They work on that, and we assist too, right? In helping with the landing pages and helping craft compelling language, compelling documents that help them make that pitch and help them bring that home. It's just not necessarily, we're not going to have a fortune teller at a fintech. Yeah.
So, this is really, really loud. So there are two categories for the personas, and I'm gonna talk about the crypto degen part. And before that, I think you do a phenomenal job with the crypto curious part. Like it's the hard work, it's the awareness phase. Doing all these type of content is really, really powerful. I think you can replicate the success of eToro, maybe. Like they did a phenomenal job with the YouTube ads and stuff. And the other part is the crypto degen crowd. So like usually protocols can grow really big if you find the sweet spot there, something that can go viral in the crypto Twitter or something. And I think if you track data, you pay attention what has ROI or what has not ROI when it comes to marketing efforts. And I think there was a big shift in crypto, and almost everything that worked over the past few years does not really generate any ROI anymore. So like KOL marketing and lots of other things don't really bring traction. And on the other hand, there was a project called Cookie.fun, and they basically built an InfoFi product where you can track AI agents. And the powerful thing in that is that they built a magnet for attention. And what happened is they just aggregated the top most interesting AI agents and the mindshare, and every single person started to share that page on Twitter. So, and they achieved like 500,000 website visitors in a very short span. The token went to the moon, and then more InfoFi products started to hit the market. So my idea is that I think app.reserve.org shouldn't be this platform, but you guys should have DTF-specific InfoFi platform, which is basically a magnet for attention. And instead of push marketing, it's gonna implement a pull marketing. And then something which is very interesting for crypto people, like just an example, seeing your DTF in a pie chart and like very visual and like the top performer DTFs, and something that you can share on Twitter. And when you implement the social element as well, like you can tap into these people's ego and competition, and that's really strong in crypto. And you can basically have a snowball effect of attention and have this inbound effect for DTFs. And then they can buy on the platform the DTFs. So I think that has potentially a much higher ROI than trying to do the push marketing inside the crypto world. So
the thing that's difficult, and you can maybe speak to this too, the thing that's difficult, I think, about that for us, because I agree with you, the number of conversations and ideas we've had about gamification and like enabling reflexive sharing and how we could improve the UX to make it more beautiful or shareable or like one click, that type of stuff. There's tons of them, right? And like from the marketing guys, like, oh, this would be so cool, but ultimately they come down to be engineering things, right? And the number of things that have to be engineered versus the things that we can actually produce, there's a little bit of a disconnect there, right? And then you have the list of priorities of what we're actually building out and what's next, and if something comes down the pike from a BD conversation, that gets moved up. And so it's this ever-evolving thing of like, okay, how are we prioritizing this stuff, right? And I guess what I can tell you is that this like gamification and mindshare type thing is like something that we're always thinking about and something that I think our engineers are thinking about. And thankfully, like when we, are in our Slack and we're like, it would be better if this was like this, it's generally like, oh yeah, good point. So there is this kind of feedback that works.
Yeah, of course. I think it's just worth exploring what's the lowest effort, highest ROI approach in this. For example, what if Cookie, let's say, can build this for you in a very easy way, and then you don't have to engineer anything, or just a minimal effort, and you can tap into like their expertise. I think it's really worth exploring.
Yeah, just to kind of speak to what Jake said, I completely agree. KOLs have kind of fallen off the map as far as marketing goes, and it's not something we're going to be doing anytime soon. But we are looking to do things like forecaster modules, building out things that are gamified, that are a little bit simpler and easier to use, making, for example, individual pages for a DTF that have the pie charts that you're talking about. Those are things that we're literally building. That's why they're not in here. And open to kind of any sort of conversation, like Layer 3, our Layer 3 campaign worked. I think we did like 250K in volume in a very short period of time, and it was very geared towards education more than actual mints. So whether it be Cookie or anything else, totally open.
I had a couple questions that I wrote down. One was, you slightly touched on it, but have you guys already been able to, from the preliminary data you have, kind of identify the channels that suit best for the curious and then the native crowds? Because you named a lot, and from my experiences, especially in the stages that you guys are, with DTFs being fairly new still, you guys are going to be going into a very important section now where you're, as you guys said, leaning into the platforms that worked and like niching down there your marketing and then expanding. So I'm very curious to hear which platforms you've identified serve those crowds the best, because you guys probably are aware it's very, very limited what we can advertise and how.
Yeah,
Crypto,
we're fortunate where we are able to advertise, I think, more than the average protocol, just due to our setup and a lot of the things that we've done over the last few months. For us, Twitter kind of has encompassed everything, especially at that consideration level for people just clicking through and viewing a video. And then on the retail side of the retail curious has been very much the other social platforms and trusted publications. One thing that was really shocking in the survey that Naga mentioned about the 77% of people is they mentioned that most of the people that heard about Reserve came from a publication. They did not come from any social element. So something that we're leaning into is doing a little bit more PR, appearing on podcasts, doing stuff on Spotify where people are actually listening, and they're listening with high intent. And you'll see a lot of that content go out over the next, let's call it, month or two. And then on the social side, it's primarily Twitter and Instagram. TikTok is the hardest nut to crack as far as advertising goes, so we're not really there yet, although we do post content just from an organic perspective. But for us, like, Instagram has a lot of people who don't mind clicking an ad and just learning about something, or don't mind seeing a pie chart and going, oh, that makes sense to me, the S&P 500 versus the Bloomberg index. Okay, that I could quantify those things. And then on the Twitter side, because it's becoming much more of a news platform, it's an opportunity for us to be able to engage with the Bankless and these other big, huge publications that are trusted, and we could kind of use them as a glue for our trust layer. The biggest issue is people don't trust crypto. I mean, they trusted a lot more than they did 2 or 3 years ago, and even more from 5, 6 years ago, but there's still that skepticism that happens. And we've seen, and I think that the data with the surveys from publications is that, like, having the Times talk about something that we're doing is significantly more valuable than a KOL with 250,000 people tweeting, hey, go check out and mint a DTF. So that's something that you'll see us kind of learning and leaning into, and you'll see also our content start to reflect that as we kind of go through our process.
Yeah, so the next thing I had here is, you guys mentioned as well, security and like data is really important for the crypto native crowd, less so for the crypto curious one. So thinking about, have you guys, I don't know, maybe you guys already have this, but like some form of a lead magnet / newsletter? Because what I felt, even for the crypto native crowd, is that when you actually get into the ecosystem, even for the native guys, like a DTF can be complex to comprehend. It's like, hey, wait, I'm buying this thing, but wait, it's mintable, so then I don't want to buy it, but wait, actually it's backed by underlying app. Okay, so that means, okay. So the education element is very different compared to the two personas. And one thing that I haven't seen yet, which I think would make a tremendous difference, mostly for the curious crowd, is some form of a lead magnet and a newsletter. If you guys have that, that's amazing.
Yeah, our newsletter launches in August. So
okay.
There's a DTF newsletter. We're launching it in August. You'll start seeing it at the bottom of a lot of the blog content. We have, I believe it's 10 or 20 videos that are all within this 1 to 2 minute range that are essentially like whiteboard educational, that are exactly for what you're talking about. And the goal is not only we're going to put out a newsletter that is educating you about rebalances that are happening with DTFs, new DTFs that are launching, but we're going to start to educate you on the greater reserve ecosystem. So you'll be able to learn about a particular category with the DTFs, but it'll kind of expand. And then accompanying that, just a word like going to be in Milk Road and a few of the other larger newsletters kind of pushing our blog narrative and a lot of the long form content that we're having. This way we could take that, retarget it, using to build audiences, so on and so forth. The Yukon activation that we're doing actually is pretty interesting. We're going to be there before and throughout the game. We're giving away like season tickets, and then 5-question survey. One of them is sign up for the newsletter, and you get like to mint ice cream and that type of thing, because it's going to be hot as who knows in August. So yeah, I totally agree, and that's definitely something that we've been thinking about and already started building.
One of the things that's really tough about reserve is that at every stage of the funnel, there are 700 new questions, right? It's like, it's just indexes. But then, oh, there's RSR. But then, oh, you're trying to solve money, and it's inflation resistant, and there's a 500-year time horizon, and there's governance, and it's decentralized. You introduce all these new questions at each new layer, and they all need those things. They all need supporting documents, they all need videos, they all need this whole suite of things, and not only do they need those things need to be compelling and clear and all of these different things, right? And so that's the thing that we're like, okay, we've got to start building out this entire library of these things for people who are making their way down that funnel.
Yeah, tracking becomes super important. And then that actually touches on my final one, which is how you guys are thinking about churn retention, because you guys mentioned obviously these Quest platforms are virtually useless at this point. And so from what I saw, you guys are tracking TVL and wallet connections right now. It's the main point of conversion, from what I understand. And how are you guys thinking in terms of identifying churn and potentially also to increase the word of mouth growth of the platform through like referrals, and how maybe incentivizing deployers in different ways can come into the picture there?
Yeah, so you can't currently deploy we're not fully permissionless where you could do that yet. When that happens, there will be a referral and advocacy program. That's kind of why in my slides we didn't really touch on that really bottom of the funnel, because once that comes, right, now we could incentivize a DTF that was just launched by saying, hey, if you reach X amount of TVL, we are going to contribute, or whatever that might be. But that is our plan, is to kind of set that up. And then we've also been running a lot of incentivization programs with wallets. So I think you mentioned like competition and leaderboards and things like that. So running a swap competition on volume with OKX or Binance Wallet or Mexi, or getting a DTF listed and then doing incentivization through there is a lot more valuable, a lot more sticky. And then keeping them down the pipeline is constantly giving them more reasons to take action. So that's where a lot of like the data that we collect, the mixed modeling that Naga's doing comes into play, is because now I could see, hey, you haven't touched your wallet, you just are sitting on one of our DTFs for the last year. How do I now reactivate you, get you to learn something new or buy something different? And that's going to be through the retargeting funnels that we're setting up, because Chris here is a performance marketer, and one of the things that he's working on is how do I build audiences out that I could retarget that are incredibly niche. So right, and the average advertising audience is 1 million plus that we're going to go after. The goal is to get that subset of 100,000 and give them exactly what they want, and then build it out a long-term funnel where it's, hey, you own this, you've bought this, you could do this. Now we want you to buy this, learn this, and now you could push it out, or you could earn from it and get bonuses, and the goal is to stay long-term.
I mean, the deployers can play a really key role, of course, through distribution, and then also helping with the bottlenecks of like potentially building out something extra that would help.
And then when you have once you eventually have the competitive marketplace and you have the deployers who are deploying these DTFs, right, shilling them, doing whatever they're doing, and the governors who are governing the DTFs, you also have the whole pool of communities that are backing the DTF that you can, in theory, activate through different campaigns, different things as well. So all of those conversations are also happening like, okay, we've got this enormous opportunity in front of us, right? And this whole gamification possibility. How do we capitalize on that from the get-go? How do we, kick that whole flywheel off?
So I have a question for you guys. So for anyone here who doesn't know, these folks deployed the Alpha Base Index. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it has the stats for being like the most actively minted and redeemed index DTF so far, right? Like someone told me some statistic about like it having the most like organic usage. You guys are getting your community excited about it. I'm curious, what has the experience been like not being ABC Labs, not being Reserve, and explaining this product to the people in your community or people outside of your community who end up using it? Like, how has that gone from your perspective?
Yeah, so we have a unique brand identity on Twitter, and we talk about interesting things.
And again, for people who don't have context, that brand identity is altcoinist, right? Which tell us what altcoinist is.
Yeah, so we build an ecosystem for on-chain trading and on-chain investing, and we are a super degen crypto native brand, and we talk about a lot of interesting things. We love to be early. We have our own token, which we use for governance for our DTF. We have a trading bot, a Telegram trading bot, which is a social trading bot that basically leverages the collective intelligence. And that's how ABX idea came into the picture. What if we could aggregate the alpha of all these people's work, and tokenize it in an actively managed DTF? And the name is Alpha Base Index, and because it's tracking base projects, and we try to find alpha. And so I think building a narrative is really important, and if you cannot do that, you probably gonna get lost on Twitter. It's a really heavy competition when it comes to attention, but if you nail it, crypto has the highest reward, I think. So because you basically can turn that attention to capital, and that means the narrative which we started to build, we have this ecosystem, we have all this success when it comes to finding stuff early, and now we partnered up with one of our favorite projects, Reserve, and we have this product. And I think Reserve and Altcoinist is a really good combination, because a very sophisticated product which is very flexible. There is infinite opportunities you can do. It's a big playground, I think, for crypto people, and I really rate the permissionless phase. And we have this constantly grinding community who want to change their life. And because at the end of the day, most products in crypto are for making it. And so that's the product market fit of crypto. People came here to make money. That's their main goal usually. And by aggregating these alpha projects and talking about a single project inside the index, it could be very interesting for them. And we basically achieve some sort of exchange listing effect. So when we announced that we listed a new project in ABX, it started to pump. So it's a very, very cool thing to see. Also, I really think that if you have a first 20, 50 passionate new users, you are on the right track. And I talk a lot with hundreds of people in our community, and many people started to buy their own first DTF, and it was oh, it's a fantastic product. They have a few questions, but they really love it. So they even joke with that, okay, we let the altcoinist boys do the work, and then we can just sit back. I cannot buy more rugs and everything. These guys are on the next level, and they enjoy this exposure to our know-how and knowledge. So I think building a narrative and having an identity as a DTF is very, very, very cool. Of course, for a Bloomberg index, it's not that sexy for the crypto native people. But if you let's say you have an AI index, you should have your own Twitter page for that index. You should talk about the projects what are in the index, and try to aggregate that into a mission. So like for us, governance will be something deeper than just purely governance. We plan to have a movement from the governance, okay guys, the goal is to outperform the entire market, buy ARTT, stake it, and govern, and let's figure out what's off on the market and include it into the DTF, and stay the best performing DTF on the Reserve protocol. So I think that's a big journey you invite your audience to, and that has this word of mouth effects as well. And I already started to see this inflection point recently.
But from a funnel perspective, it was also interesting to see that it was a challenge for crypto natives as well to understand this tech. So it's clear. So it's not just on the curious side. And we're right now in the process of figuring out, okay, where exactly do we kind of plug in ABX into our funnel in terms of, okay, we're getting users aware of us, they're coming in using our tools, our products, and then where does ABX exactly fit into that journey? And then where does ALTT fit into that journey? So we're constantly thinking about this and building around this. Hence why I said like deployer incentivization is such a key distribution channel for you guys, because like it's in our incentive to make you guys grow, or our DTF, which makes you guys grow. So yeah, but that's where we are. And I think the biggest identification for me personally was the challenge for crypto natives as well to understand this.
I think it wasn't that
But it's quick. It's quick. It's like as soon as they know that they're not going to get it.
I think it wasn't that complicated for the people I'm in touch with. Like they understand that it's an index, it's a tokenized portfolio. It's not that complicated for them. It's not that complicated for them to buy. They just need a reason. So like to increase the intent. That's I think that's the curiosity. That's why I keep mentioning like some sort of dashboard, which is like really dopamine inducing, like something you watch like multiple times a day, and then you just figure out what to buy, which DTF to buy, and like you can have the referrals, you can have a lot of campaigns, but the fact that as soon as you see popular faces having their name attached with the DTF, it causes a ripple effect. So like people, oh, I want to do it as well. I want to compete with those people, and then. I think that's a trajectory definitely worth putting effort into.
Not yet. We're talking to StockTwits right now and a few other things to do exactly that.
Because I just think about,
we just got to get
the
approved to do those
dopamine
types of
hit,
things.
I think about just opening up TradingView. I mean, I look at TradingView multiple times a day. More than half is Twitter, right? Half Twitter, half TradingView. And I could see myself looking at DTFs and being like, how's the index doing? Even if it's just in TradingView, just to get that number or whatever. But to his point, I kind of agree on that.
I think we have one last comment question.
Yeah, just on your note about kind of like that power user with like wearing the pit vipers, I think that like that governance aspect is like super important to kind of like just igniting that bought-in community. And like when you said dashboard, I like my mind just like sparked to like I feel like that would be perfect, because like from our perspective, like we want to be like as objective and like hands off as possible. So giving this to the community, I feel like would be something that would be like very just like the people just like come back to reserve and would be super sticky that way.
And I have to ask, how do you feel about the Clanker DTF so far?
I think that Luke does a really good job of managing it. I think that it's just very subjective. Like, I don't know. I think there, goes up and down, but overall, I think it's good. I think there definitely could be some varieties, right? Where it's like maybe you want to do a mini app DTF, right? Where it's Farcaster specific mini apps or specific memes or, things like that. It could really kind of like be dialed into specific niches as well. And I think one thing that has been kind of like a challenge is just that the weighting of each kind of indices is it's tough. And I think maybe that's where maybe weighted voting could come into play, but overall just like the community activation would be something that I'd like.
Basically the governance is the activation. That's the funniest part, and they earn money with it. That's
exactly.
a genius thing.
Yeah, it just gets people talking about it too, which is, yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.